Pennsylvania Supreme Court has tossed out an election case over the legitimacy of the state's mail-in ballots. This after a judge deemed it likely to succeed. Our next guest, who filed the suit, says it's far from over. He joins now to discuss. We got Pennsylvania GOP congressional candidate and friend of mine, Sean Parnell, also former Army Ranger, combat veteran. Sean, you've made a pretty solid case. Tell us where your specific congressional race, which is not yet over, still being fought out in the courts, where do things stand for you?
Well, right now, I'm down by less than 10,000 votes. And we've got lots of questions about the race on election night. There was really no honest mathematical path for my opponent. And regardless of how the mail-in ballots fell, I was going to have about a 13,000 vote margin of victory. And then the day after Election Day, at about 8:30 at night, there were two successive ballot dumps, one of 4,000 votes, one of 9,000 votes. Interestingly enough, that totals 13,000 votes. That put my opponent over the top. 25 minutes after those ballot dumps happened, he scampered out to the podium and declared victory. And we still have not got an answer from the Allegheny County Board of Elections as to where those ballots came from. Now, it's not a projection. It's not like we think there are this many absentee ballots. No, we knew exactly how many absentee ballots there were, both in the Republican, Democrat, Independent, and other. And he had no honest mathematical path to victory until those ballot dumps happened. And as I mentioned earlier, Buck, we still haven't gotten any answers as to where they came from.
Now, where does it stand with the courts, with the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court? Where are you in that process?
Yeah, so we brought forth a lawsuit that is based on 200 years of PA Supreme Court case law that basically makes the case that Act 77, now Act 77 is Pennsylvania's no excuse absentee ballot law. We make the case that that law is unconstitutional because it requires a constitutional amendment to change the time, place, and manner of elections. And the PA state constitution is very clear on how one can vote in our Commonwealth. It's either in person or meeting a very strict, rigorous standard for absentee ballots, right? And so Act 77 is the most sweeping electoral overhaul in our state's history in about 200 years. And basically what they failed to do, what the state legislature failed to do and the governor failed to do is the amendment process. And so what does that look like? Act 77 would have had to have been voted on in two straight legislative sessions. Then it would have had to have been advertised in two separate newspapers in the state of Pennsylvania for 30 days. And here's the most important part, Buck. It had to go on the ballot in a referendum so that the people have a say, right? And right now, the case that we're making is the people did not have a say. And I think the framers of the PA Constitution intended for the citizens of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to have a say in how their elections are conducted, and they were not given that choice. And our case, I think, is pretty clear. It makes it pretty clear. It shows pretty clearly that Act 77 is unconstitutional on the merits. And we brought this case to the Commonwealth Court. They too thought that our case, if it had proceeded on the merits, would have been a victory for us, no question. And the judge made that position pretty clear. Now, the governor and the attorney general of the state of Pennsylvania immediately appealed that decision to ask for the PA Supreme Court to take the case over. Now, the PA Supreme Court is made up a 5-2 supermajority of Democrats. And they took up the case and they dismissed it with prejudice, saying basically that I brought the lawsuit too late. But here's the catch-22. When Act 77 was passed, I wasn't a candidate. And if I had brought the lawsuit back then, they would have said, wait a second, what you're alleging is speculative. This law hasn't harmed you anyway. Therefore, you have no legal standing to bring it. But then they turned around and ruled that I brought it too late. And then they dismissed the case with prejudice, Buck. So get this. What that means is that I'm the only person in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania that is not allowed to challenge the constitutionality of Act 77 moving forward. And so not only did they not evaluate our case on the merits, which shows that clearly Act 77 is unconstitutional, they're disallowing me from raising the constitutional question of Act 77 forever in the future moving forward because they dismissed the case with prejudice.
Wait, so does that mean there's no process of appeal then for you? They've shut it down?
It's a great question. They shut it down. Now we are looking to appeal to the Supreme Court. Now we understand that Act 77 is a state election law issue, but we believe that there are very important federal questions that must be answered that are nested within the Act 77 constitutional debate here. And we are doing everything that we can. My team is doing everything that we can to put together an appeal to the Supreme Court that raised those important federal questions. And we're hoping to have that submitted sometime soon.
So you are very obviously up to speed on your own battle. You've told us about it here. We appreciate that. The president's efforts, or his legal team's efforts, to get rid of illegal ballots in the state of Pennsylvania. You have a particularly close view of that too, as somebody running for Congress in PA. Can you tell us what you think where are we in all of this? I mean, it feels like every day there's more talk. The president's tweeting more, but it doesn't feel like we're getting closer to a resolution that we're going to like.
Well, I'll just say this. This is the first time that we implemented a mass mail-in system, no excuse absentee ballots here in the state of Pennsylvania during the highest voter turnout election in our nation's history. So I think it's reasonable for people to be suspicious given all of the abnormalities and statistical irregularities that we've seen. And I'll give you one example in my district, and I've already laid out that there are 13,000 ballots that were infused into my race. We have absolutely no idea where they came from. Allegheny County stopped counting on election night. Why did they stop counting on election night? All of these things raise questions in people's minds and that aren't being answered. And those unanswered questions raise suspicions, right? And so even in Beaver County, right, we looked at 2,000 ballots from 4 different nursing homes in Beaver County. The Republican chairman in Beaver County was helping us with this, along with the sheriff. Just 2,000 ballots from 4 different nursing homes. Same handwriting, signatures appeared to be forged, right? This is ballot harvesting in the state of Pennsylvania. It's illegal. And we only looked at 4 nursing homes in Beaver County. We haven't even started looking at nursing homes in Allegheny County. So there are legitimate, clear irregularities that need to be investigated. And look, it's important that we investigate them, Buck, because 50% of the people in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania will never trust an election again if we don't. 75+ million people across the country will never trust an election again if we don't. And so part of my job, I feel like moving forward, especially here in the state of Pennsylvania, is advocating for the people, Buck. We need to pass laws that are constitutional. The Constitution shields us all and protects us from the government. And so the case that we make with Act 77 is that it's unconstitutional. Now the left is out there saying, of course, immediately, I'm sure you could predict their argument. Sean Parnell wants to throw out 2.5 million mail-in votes, thereby disenfranchising. No, first of all, that's not what we're doing. We're asking the state to stop certification so that we can find a remedy for what I believe to be an unconstitutional election here in the state of Pennsylvania. But the point that I'm making is that what about the millions of people in Pennsylvania who never got a say as to whether or not they wanted mail-in ballots in the first place because it was never brought to a vote? And so I think it's really important, Buck, to let these lawsuits play out to their natural end, right? So that the people in this great country and in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, have a warm and fuzzy about the end result of this election.
We need answers. That much is for sure. Former Army Ranger and still congressional candidate, Sean Parnell, everybody. Sean, good to see you, buddy. Hey, Team Buck, just want to say thanks so much for watching The First on YouTube. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more great content from The First, please click that subscribe button.